What's up? No, you're so noisy this morning. Yeah, you looking forward to the next chapter? Maybe two? We'll see. Oh, good morning. Welcome back to Hero. We've got ourselves a nice cup of coffee. We got a little fire going, early morning, a couple of animals hanging out with us. I'm excited to see what happens. And Diego's asked me if I'd read 2 chapters. We'll see. We'll see how much time we have today. Chapter 2. Zach Harriman needed to get home. Not take his time crossing Central Park the way he usually did. Not stop at his favorite bench and read a book the way he sometimes did. And not try to kill a little time before his dad came home. Now. He hadn't slept much the night before. He'd been feeling anxious. He always got this way before his dad came home from one of his business trips. Only Zach didn't think of them as regulation business trips. No one did. His dad worked for the government, worked for the president, actually, and Zach would often see him described as a troubleshooting diplomat in the newspaper or when he was being introduced to one of the TV shows. Zach didn't quite know what his dad did on these trips, but he had a feeling his dad was saving the world one bad place at a time. One time, Zach had asked what it was like working for the president, and his dad had said in a quiet voice, "I work for the good guys." He had gone to Europe this time, some top secret location. Zach and his mom weren't allowed to know. That national security thing again. His dad had said, almost trying to make a joke of the danger he was probably going to be in. But it was never a joke to Zach. People, adults mostly, but kids at school too, seemed to think that every day was like some kind of holiday if you had a famous father. And Zach had to admit, no way around it, that it was a pretty cool deal, being Thomas Harriman's only child. Except it was way more cool when he was actually around. A few months ago, his dad had been in Africa, and the news reports had showed him celebrating with some people he had led back across the border from South Africa into Zimbabwe. At the time, a commentator on CNN had said, when this country needed him, there he was. Maybe Tom Harriman's real job is hero, and he goes wherever the job takes him. That was my newscaster impression. I hope you liked it. But see, that was it right there. That was the problem to Zach's way of thinking. The job kept taking Dad. His dad. He seemed to belong to the world. And when you're 14, as Zach had just turned, the world that mattered the most to you was your own. Zach Harriman's world was his dad and his mom. And it was Alba, Zach's nanny when he was younger, the family's housekeeper and cook now. It was Kate, the fabulous Kate, Alba's daughter, because she and her mom lived with the Harrimans in their amazing apartment on 5th Avenue. The top 3 floors of the great old brownstone Zach's eyes were fixed on now as he crossed the park. Any kid wanted to have a dad who was brave and respected and famous, no doubt. And a hero. Throw that in too. Yet, more than anything, Zach just wanted his dad to be home. And he would be home tonight, flying his own plane as usual, landing it at Teterboro Airport over in New Jersey. Then he'd head back to the city by car. Back home, Zach thought. So Zach should have been happy. Like, over the moon happy. Not a care in the world happy. He should have been killing time the way he usually did because it was still only 5 o'clock and his dad wasn't scheduled to walk through the front door until 7 at the earliest. Only Zach wasn't happy. He was in a hurry, and a big one, starting to run. And the thing was, he never rushed through the park unless you got caught in some kind of storm and had to beat it home. Other people might think of Central Park, built right in the middle of Manhattan, and think of the trees and green grass, the tennis courts, summer concerts, softball fields, skating rink, more water than most people knew about, and the zoo. And Zach was cool with all that. But for Zach, Central Park was his own backyard. The park was a place where he could be alone and not feel alone, where he could run the reservoir or kick a soccer ball around or just wander aimlessly and never be bored, or stop and watch kids play touch football and pretend that he was in the game with them, that he was just a regular kid. It's interesting. I took a trip to Central Park a couple years ago. One and only time I went to New York, and I remember walking to Central Park and thinking I would just take a quick kind of a jaunt through there, but I spent hours just walking around, wandering, and watching people kind of like he was describing. It was surreal. I would love to go back and visit it again. Sometimes he would walk over to West Side after school by himself and spend an hour at the Museum of Natural History. Go hang with the dinosaurs who used to roam the earth the way his dad did now. I went there too. It's actually not too far from Central Park, and you don't have to pay to get in. They just ask for donations. So even if you wanted to go every day, you wouldn't have to pay every day, or if you had extra money, you could donate. But I don't know how many hours I spent and how many times I went back. I still never completed the whole museum. It's humongous. It's amazing. Really cool stuff. But not today. Today, he was running. Running like he was being chased. Scared of something without knowing what. Running hard. He was close to Fifth Avenue now. He could see he was going to make the light. Didn't slow down as he crossed the avenue, nearly clipping a nanny he recognized from the neighborhood who was pushing a baby stroller. He waved and yelled, "Sorry, Veronica!" Then he slowed down just a little, and downshifting one of his sports cars as Lenny the doorman opened the front door for him. "We need to talk about those Knicks," Lenny said. "Later," Zach said. He took a hard ride into the lobby, nearly skidding into the wall, heading to the elevator, the one that opened right up into the first floor of the apartment, knowing the elevator would be waiting for him. It was. He took one last look over his shoulder, feeling totally wacko doing it, because he realized what he was doing, looking to see if the bads were gaining on him. The elevator dinged and groaned and began to rise. Zach felt his stomach flip as though the short ride up was a roller coaster. The doors opened, and Zach walked into the apartment, rounded the corner of the living room, and stopped dead in his tracks, and he knew. He knew before he saw all of them, everyone staring at him with big eyes, sad eyes. The saddest of all belonging to his mom, who clearly had been crying. His mom, who never wanted anyone to see her crying at the movies. The whole family was there. Alba, Kate, John Marshall, the family lawyer, Uncle John, to Zach his whole life, even though they weren't actually related. With them were two policemen staring at Zach along with everybody else. Right there and then, Zach knew that his dad wasn't coming home tonight. Wasn't coming home ever. He'd had it wrong, as it turned out. The bads hadn't been chasing him across Central Park after all. They'd been waiting for him here. One more? Okay, we'll do one more. I know, there's a lot of information hanging there. Chapter 3. Alright, Chapter 3. Zach couldn't sleep that night. He was cried out by the time he went to bed. Hugged out, worn out. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't sleep. He was now alone. No one to tell him he was going to get through this over time. He knew the truth, that even when he did get to sleep, even when it was tomorrow, nothing was going to change. Nothing was going to make him feel better. Nothing was going to bring back his dad. Finally, a little past 1 in the morning, he slipped out of his room and quietly walked down the stairs, happy to see that all the lights were out on the main floor of the apartment. Zach opened the door to his dad's office, next to the den, where the two of them would watch games on the big screen. There was a huge desk in there, what had seemed to be the size of a battleship to Zach when he was younger. On the walls were photographs of his dad with famous politicians and other celebrities. One wall had nothing but photographs of the family, all of them smiling, all of them happy. There was his dad's Harvard football jersey mounted in a glass case, a gift from Zach's mom. The varsity letter he'd gotten in football. 2 of the walls had floor-to-ceiling bookshelves built into them. With so many books, Zach had always wondered how his dad fit them in here. He could still smell his dad in here, feel him. He could still hear his voice, his laugh, the jazz music he always had going when he was sitting behind the desk. He remembered the last time the 2 of them had been in here together. It had turned into perhaps the most painful memory of all. I barely had time for him. Me, Zach thought, the kid who was always complaining about my dad being away. And the last time I saw him, I practically blew him off. It had been a Thursday night, a school night, of course. Both Zach and Kate had 2 free periods to begin their Friday morning schedule, meaning neither one of them had a class until 10:30. So they'd hatched a plan at dinner to go to the movies. No big deal at the time. There was no reason to feel as if he was ditching his dad because his dad wasn't supposed to be leaving for Europe until Saturday morning. He'd poked his head into his dad's office to say goodbye. His dad was on the phone and he'd held up a finger to Zach. "I'll be just a moment." Zach checked his cell for the time. "Piece of cake," his dad was saying. The tone in his voice was pure dad, the usual quiet sureness that Zach would hear when he talked to business, even when Zach knew it was the President of the United States on the other end of the line. Yeah, Tom Harriman said, clearly wanting to wrap things up, but sounding hot at the same time. "No, you listen to me. Sometimes the one who tell you not to fight are the ones you should fear the most. The ones who say they want me to sit something out for my own good. Then he nodded and said, I'll talk to you when I get back. He placed the receiver in its cradle, calmer now, and said to Zach, Hey, big guy, you off with Miss Kate? She really wants to see this one. Swears it's funny. That's what your mother always tells me. Then his face turned serious. Listen, I might have to take off earlier than I thought. They just sprang it on me. Zach said, Dad, you just got back. Now you gotta leave? When? Dawn's early light. The boy with 2 frees to start the day will be sound asleep. Zach didn't say anything, but his face must have told his dad everything. Tom Harriman said, I know we haven't seen much of each other in the past few months. Before Zach could respond, they both heard Kate from upstairs calling Zach's name. The movie wasn't starting for another 45 minutes, and they were only a 10-minute walk from the theater, but Zach knew by now that Kate operated on her own timetable. His dad said, So, I'm guessing the Knicks-Celtics game on TV tonight? Out of the question? Oh, Dad, you're killing me. But Kate will kill me if I bail on her now. So I'd better bounce. Yeah, I get it, his dad said. And you know what? You know why I get it? Because I'm a guy. That's why. We'll catch a real game at the Garden when I get back. Many games. They were words that Zach heard plenty of times before from his dad. Maybe once too often. Yeah, he said to his dad. It sounds like a plan. Next time I'm back, I promise. It won't seem just like another quick break from being gone again. Swear on our lucky coins. Something else Zach had heard before. Okay, Zach said. He could hear Kate in the foyer now, calling his name again. Time to go. You can walk me before you go if you want. I won't mind, promise. Wouldn't think about it, his dad answered. Zach started to move out the door, but his dad stopped him. Hey, Zach, man. Yeah, Dad? Be good. Always, Dad. Gotta roll now, though. His dad was asleep when Zach got back from the movies. Gone when Zach woke up in the morning. Gone for good. Alright, so we'll stop there. We'll pick up with Chapter 4 next time. But it seems as though Zach's father did not make the plane crash. But I've got a feeling a guy like that might have had a trick up his sleeve. I don't know. Maybe I'm just hoping for hope. But we'll find out a little more tomorrow. I'll see you then.